Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, exploring the English language curriculum for Bachillerato General Unificado in Ecuador. I'm Gema, and today I will be your host. I'm joined by four amazing guests, Fiorella, Sasha, Ariel, and Nathaly. So, hi, everyone. How are you today?
Hi,
Hi,
Gemma.
Gemma. Doing
Hi.
Hi.
I'm
Hi,
fine.
everyone.
perfect.
I'm fine.
Great, guys. So, in today's episode, we are going to talk about the main principles, threats, and goals of the English curriculum in Ecuador and other aspects, of course. The English language curriculum is a really important topic to discuss and to be informed. Why? Well, because as we know, it is established first is it is established by the Ministry of Education, and second, it serves as guide for a public and private institutions in Ecuador, and also because some it establishes general guidelines to be fulfilled for the different institution in our country, so teachers can base their planning in those general guidelines and goals to be fulfilled for the different levels. Of course, some of aspects that will be discussed later, but in general, we will be talking about how these aspects help students to become globalized citizens with the necessary need for this 21st century. Okay, so let's get started with let's start with Fiorella. Please explain the principles and threats of this English curriculum.
Thanks, Gemma. So, the English curriculum in Ecuador, it's basically made with different types of students. People who come from different places or speak other language at home. It's not the same for everyone, and that's what makes it great. It also focuses a lot on inclusion. You know, it tries to make sure that every student feels part of this process and learns English in a way to correct of their own culture.
I really like what you're talking about because, well, these take into consideration the different backgrounds of our students. So, yes, because as we know, we learn the second language, but our mother tongue is as important as the second language we are learning. But this is not just about learning grammar or vocabulary, right?
Exactly. It's more about English to communicate and participate, to actually talk, share ideas, and work with others. The curriculum also push and teamwork, creativity, and being open-minded. And of course, it helps students get ready for the real world, like being able to be able to do work and travel or study abroad. It focuses a lot on what we call 21st century skills. Things like understanding other cultures, thinking critically, solving problems, and most often keeping that motivation and keep learning English even after school.
Uh, Very clear, Fiorella. I really like how the curriculum connects English learning with global citizenship in globalized context. For example, this is not just a learning knowledge that stay in a high school context, but rather a knowledge that goes beyond this in just high school context, because that knowledge can also be applied to other areas of a student's future life. For example, they work, their careers, etc. So now, Sasha, please continue by explaining the core principles of the curriculum.
Gemma, the English curriculum is actually built around four big ideas. First, there SEAL, which is basically learning English through other subjects like science or art. So you're not just learning words, you're using them. Then it's follow international standards like the CEFR, which helps the students see where they are compared to learn around the world. It's also encourage critical thinking, not just memorizing rules. And finally, it's very student focused, meaning teacher adapt to what a student needs and one interested in learn. Honestly, I think that's what makes learning English more real and fun. Than you guys think it's better when class feel connect to real life.
Yes, yes. What Sasha said is totally right. I think that the purpose of every teacher out there is to teach his class, and the thing that he has been teaching or they have been teaching can sticks in the mind of the students. So the all the knowledge that he has connected with the student is not just something that the student can forget after the test.
Yes, that was a great explanation, Sasha, and I agree also with Ariel. Um, how this clear methodology integrates real life context and the different subjects in school and everything. But yeah, these are what I found most interested is how these core principles see the student as the center of the learning. That was right, right, Sasha?
Exactly. It's about making a student independent, confident, and motivating to learn.
But Sasha, do you think this clear methodology could be applied to public schools in Ecuador?
Mm, I think SEAL can be implemented in public school, but it will take some work. The idea of learning English through subject like science or story is great. It's make a learn more meaningful, but for that to happen, teachers need good training and no research. Right now, not all public schools in Ecuador have the same materials, technology, or time to plan their lessons.
I get your opinion, Sasha, and I agree that good songs make good. But I'm not sure it will work well in public schools right now. Many teachers still struggle with the to English level required to teach other subjects in English. Also, students in BGU are expected to reach at least at B1 level, according to the national curriculum. But even that goal is difficult some schools because English classes are limited to just a few hours per week. So before implementing CLIL, I think the system should focus on training teachers' language skills and giving schools better support.
Wow, you mentioned a really important point, Fiorella, because the VGU students are expected to reach a certain level in their English, if according to the national curriculum. However, is that the reality? But let's hear now to Ariel. He will be talking more about this bachelor's or BGU's exit profile.
So, okay, guys, I will talk about, or I'm going to talk about the bachelor's exit profile, describing the English level students should reach when they finish high school. Basically, by the end of BGU, students are expected to achieve a B1 level according to the Common European Framework Reference for Languages. That means that they can communicate effectively in familiar situations or real situations, understand the main ideas of the context, and express opinions. In this curriculum, we have four macro skills. These skills are verbal expressions, group work, problem solving, and inclusion. And this curriculum also promotes tolerance, respect, and critical thinking to the students.
That's great, Ariel. I really like these skills that you mentioned. And but though do they also include the creative skills?
Yeah, of course it does. This curriculum includes, as we call, language through the arts. This means that the teachers can use, for example, they can use mute the songs or movie or movies in their activities in the classroom, so the students can learn using this new technology inside the classroom. And these activities encourage creativity and cultural awareness and expression through the music, theater, and visual arts. In basic words, it prepares students to communicate, think critically, and participate actively in society.
That's good. Excellent. However, I would like to add that, as Rela mentioned before, this at the end of the day is a difficult job for teachers to integrate all this technology with the few hours that the curriculum established. I think it's like 5 hours. So 5 hours according to some levels. So let's see how the curriculum mentioned some methodologies that we can implement to manage some activities in the class because we through all these podcasts we have been talking about communicating effectively and trying to participate actively in our society. So now let's introduce with Nathaly this really interesting approach, which is the communicative approach established by the curriculum, which also is focused to foster the critical thinking skills of students of Bachillerato General Unificado.
Thanks, Gema. One of the most important aspects in this curriculum is the communicative language teaching approach. According to Richard 2006, in this method focus on communication, not just grammar. Students use language in real-life situations to express ideas, feelings, and opinions. It's about learning by doing interactive, no memorizing.
That's a good point, right? Because this makes the learning much more practical, right?
Yes, definitely. It connects to critical thinking skills, which are also essential, while communicative approach focus on real life, use critical thinking, development, deeper understanding like analyzing, evaluating, and creating.
And here is the connection to what we already talked about the real life context. So can you
Yes.
give our listeners an example of how to apply this communicative approach in class?
Yes. Okay. In this way, students learn to use English, creativity, and intelligence. becoming better thinkers and problem solvers. A simple example of the communicative approach is a role-play activity in class, because in this activity, students pretend to be in real situations, like ordering fruit in a restaurant or buying a ticket for the cinema. The main point is that students use English to talk and solve problems, not just repeat phrases. And another example, I have two students act as a customer and a waiter. And the customer asks the day before dish and asks the question about the menu. The waiter answers and gives a recommendation. In this way, students practice new words useful and speaking skills they need in real life.
Wow, that was interesting because, for example, some of these example, like you mentioned, the role play can help students in their travel abroad, Ecuador. Really interesting. So great
Yes.
conclusion, Natalie. Now, that shows how communicative is this approach based on communication goes hand by hand with critical thinking as well as developing these skills in real life context. And now, before we finish, I would like to ask each of you, why do you think it's important to have this kind of English curriculum here in Ecuador?
Oh, because it prepares students for a global world where English is essential for studying, working, and connecting with others.
I agree. It's also a promote inclusion and cultural understanding, which are very important for society.
Okay, in my opinion, this curriculum is important because it gives the students the opportunity not only to learn the things that we have in the books, that they are important, but the really objective that, or the really purpose that we want is that the students can use the language to use in real situations, to express opinions, to solve problems, or to establish conversations in real situations with other people.
And it helps them become independent learners and who can keep improving even after finishing school.
Exactly. That's great. That because I think it's really important to know the positive sides, the improvements that is being established by the curriculum that serves as the guide to the learning process. But I also consider important to mention the role, the responsibility that the people planning this curriculum have behind curtains, like inside of the planning. So that they are responsible to take into consideration the needs of the students, their realities in high schools, and plan accordingly. So, yes, so that's everything for today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our listeners, and we hope you enjoyed this and you learned something new today. So, this was all for the English language curriculum for Bachillerato General Unificado. Thank you and see you next time.
Goodbye.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Goodbye.
Bye.